Impact Revolution channel. Thank you so much for making time for us. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Yoshi. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so we have a brief talk about what you do and all the stuff that you are working on. And before we go into the main things about your life lessons and business lessons learned, I wanted to ask you if that's okay with you, two personal questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shoot.
just to get to know you a bit better. So the first one will be one of my favorites, which is if you could wake up tomorrow anywhere in the world, Neil, where it will be?
Oh man. Huh. Let me take like a second to think about this and actually give you a sincere answer.
Sure.
Anywhere in the world. I've been really into Egyptology lately, and the pyramids, and like why do they
Uh,
make them the way they made them, and like why are the pyramids on the US dollar bill, and
uh,
why is there so much significance and geometry
uh-huh.
and symbolism with the pyramids, and like were the
Uh,
pyramids just like monumental structures, or do they have some sort of purpose? So I would say in Egypt, by the
mm,
pyramids of Giza. I think that'd be really cool. I've been there, but now I've kind of got a newfound appreciation or perspective on it. So I'd
all
like to go
right.
there.
All right, very good. Okay, I love Egypt. I really like the pyramids as well. So that's something. And the museum they have in Cairo, it's awesome.
Mhm.
One of the best. All right, good. And now this is a more personal and spiritual one because we have discussed some stuff
Oh yeah,
through LinkedIn, right? And
yeah.
I'm interested, what was your, let's say, most spiritual experience or transcendental experience that you could may share with us?
Yeah. Okay. Um, so a little bit of context. My family's Indian. They're Hindus. I grew up as a militant atheist. Like I just completely opposed everything they said. And then I
Uh-huh.
kind of over the years went from atheist to agnostic to spiritual, and now I kind of have my own worldview. At 18, I got a healthy dose of humbling pie. I used to be very arrogant. At 25, I had a very spiritual experience, and now at 33, I've kind of put it together. But at 25, um, it's gonna sound kind of crazy, but I like we've always been really into math, and like numbers. There's this quote. It's like God created the integers, the rest is man, and I've always been really interested in transcendental numbers and pi. And so I
Uh-huh.
had this experience when I was 25 where I had like I don't want to call them revelations because that sounds kind of egotistical or kind of absurd, but I had some insights into pi and like symmetry and um anyways, yeah, I had a series of over a couple of months, a lot of insights into numbers, and that kind of was the foundation for my spirituality.
Uh-huh.
I do like harmony and resonance and circles and like these philosophers and like scientists used to call the universe. They used to explain the universe in terms of like harmony of spheres, like Pythagoras and like Kepler, Galileo. They're talking about like musica universalis. Um,
Uh-huh.
anyways, like I when I look at stuff, I see like symmetry and shapes and circles.
Okay.
And when I was 25, I had this patient in my dental clinic, and he like was kind of kooky, and he had some pie, like actual physical pie, and I was just like completely lost in the sauce with math. And he goes, "Hey Neil, I'm pie guy in the sky," and I was like, "What the heck is this guy talking about? Pie guy in the sky?" And sometimes you meet people, and you meet people for a reason, and sometimes you're like, "Why did this person enter my life?" And I was making dentures for the guy while I was in dental school, and he's like, "I'm pie
Uh-huh.
guy in the sky," and he kept saying that, and I was like, "Dude, man," I was like, "Some people believe that life is just like X, Y, Z, T, M, C, whatever physics coordinates," and I was just like, "Dude," I was like, it was just like some trippy stuff, man. And I
Uh,
could go into it more, but that was my spiritual experience, and there was a lot of stuff around that, mathematical insights, spiritual insights, an emotional component. So
uh-huh.
all rooted in pi, right? So
All right,
pretty
very
geeky, but
good.
also pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay, so that's very interesting, because I also myself came from atheist to this kind of spirituality stuff. So that's why I thought we could get along very well in that sense. And I was wondering, out of curiosity, what is something that you believe that most people don't?
Mm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I will say a lot of the beliefs that I have may be different from Western tradition. Like I'm an American, born and raised in the U.S.
Uh-huh.
I believe a lot in Eastern philosophy, Eastern spirituality, that the world is
Uh-huh.
connected. that we're all, integrated in one and in unity and harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that, I will say that I think that the most like there's this quote, I forgot who said it. It's like nature only knows one religion, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
language of this religion or this mechanism is math, right? And everyone goes, well, everything's not an equation, blah blah blah. The world is not, necessarily deterministic, or it's just like random and all this chaos. And I was like, no, man, it's just math. I was like, it's the most
Uh-huh.
beautiful thing that like any language, right, can be kind of expressed as letters, and the letters can be math operators, and like it's just wild, right? So what I will say is like my TLDR on this is like there's a lot more than what meets the eye in the world, and people are focused on the physical world. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
say the metaphysical world is kind of where we need to focus. And people kind of dig only superficially deep into stuff, and they say, "Well, hold up, like we can't go any further, so we're gonna leave it to this god or this explanation, or we're gonna give up on it." And I'll be like, "No, just like dig deeper. Always be digging
Mm-hmm.
deeper." But
Uh-huh.
like you are the missing piece to the puzzle of life. Like look inside and you can find so many, if not all, the answers that you want in life. You just need to look inside and open your mind and like set your ego aside and truly listen
Uh-huh.
to everything inside of you and around you.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's my most controversial or hot take, is that like you are the missing piece to the puzzle. You don't need a pill, you don't need a vaccine, you don't need therapy, you don't need Jesus. You need to like look
Uh-huh.
inside and listen. And maybe you need those things, but like those things, like at the end of the day, it's what those things do to you and how you process those things. So
Uh-huh.
I would say look inside, and don't kind of suspend belief that you're capable of understanding or fixing yourself. Yeah,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I like this idea of seeing beyond, of everything. Yeah. All
totally.
right. That's very cool. Thank you so much. That was a bit of personal. I just was curious. And
Yeah,
now, if we go to the business kind of lessons learned that you have, I was
yeah.
wondering, in all your career, okay, what are the best lessons learned that you could may share with us in terms of, business, relationships, and yeah, for entrepreneurs and startups?
Yeah. So I'll say this: like my background was in engineering and physics. I somehow wandered into dentistry, and then practiced for a couple years. Went to business school, got my MBA, came out, worked in robotic surgery, then VC, and now lasers, laser robotics, software, AI, and some other stuff. And look, I was kind of all over the place. And my old CEO, I won't say my old CEO, my old boss at the robotic surgery company was like, dude, you're all over the place. He's like, that's a bad thing. You need to focus. And he was like a PhD in something, typical, like, one dimensional person. He's like, I did this for 6 years and I'm a master of it. And I was like, in my head, I had the courage to do all that stuff and really suck at everything, right? I embraced sucking. And
Mm-hmm.
I had this professor when I was at Caltech. His name was David Politzer. David was a Nobel Prize winner in physics, and he was my physics teacher. He won a Nobel Prize for his work on, like, I don't know, superconductivity of helium or something. And we used to have physics labs where we'd have like 10 or 15 people at Caltech, and we'd do circuit stuff. And I went to
Okay.
David, like every kid there, and I was like, dude, how did you win the Nobel Prize? I was like, what about you was so special? Like, what was your sauce? Like, what was your secret? And David goes, dude, he's like, we're all really smart here. And he's like, that's not why I won the Nobel Prize. He said, I won the Nobel Prize because I was like brave enough and like open enough to have a lot of experiences in different
Uh-huh.
directions and places. And
Uh-huh.
those allowed me to like amass a lot of tools in my toolkit, so that when I
Uh-huh.
attacked this problem, I was just coming at it from a completely different, 5 different directions and
Uh-huh.
synthesizing it. And I was like, oh, wow. And so that's kind of what gave me the courage to go from physics, and mechanical engineering in undergrad to dentistry and then all this other stuff. It was like, in life, you just got to figure out what gives you energy, and walk your own path and live your own truth. But know that,
Uh-huh.
like, ultimately, whatever it is, whether it's Tai Chi, poetry, music, food, sports, math, physics, like whatever you're doing, it's actually all related to each other. And
Uh-huh.
just be brave and open enough to have those experiences, because they actually all, I wouldn't even say they all tie together. Like they're all the same thing. Like people don't
Uh-huh.
understand that.
Uh-huh.
And so I think just having that openness and having that bravery to walk your own path, and
Uh-huh.
not be like, I came from an Asian family where my parents were like, you've got to be a doctor, and this and that. If you're not a doctor, you're not successful. And they did that out
Or
of love, and
engineer.
that's what they knew. Yeah, or an engineer. Oh, well, engineer wasn't good enough for them. So yeah,
All
yeah.
right,
But
very
anyways,
good.
you get my point. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. All right, openness and bravery, and have a lot of experience to see things from different perspectives. I think that's
Hmm.
really good. I just wanted to know if you could share, because this reminds me to this talk that Steve Jobs gave in this university in Stanford, I think it was, where he said about connecting the dots. And I interviewed some monk as well in this Impact Revolution channel, and he was saying, the idea of mindfulness is to be able to connect the dots in the present moment. So I was wondering, in your experience, what has been the most insightful way that you connecting dots that has served you to have different experiences in the present or in the recent present? You got
Mm.
my question. All
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
right.
I've always been really interested in the last like couple of years in Eastern philosophy and Eastern spirituality.
Uh-huh.
Um, coming from a family of Hindus, uh, I was exposed to that, but I never really understood it. And so, more recently, I came back and started looking at Buddhism, at Hinduism, and especially at Taoism. This
Mhm.
concept of like yin and yang and letting go and
Mhm.
oneness and like removing the ego and truly being present, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Lao Tzu is like that guy is just he's just full of so much freaking wisdom. And the more and more I unpacked like who I thought I was and what I thought I knew, and I like put it to the side, I didn't forget about it. And I was like, no, this is me. Like Buddha says, like every day we are reborn, and it is what we do today that like defines us, not all of our emotional trauma, our baggage, our jobs, our family,
Uh-huh.
right? And when he's saying every day, he really means every moment, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and so I guess like the connecting the dots, like to your point, I was really interested in Taoism and all of that stuff. And then I was always really at 25, I was really interested in like number theory and shape theory, graph theory and
Okay.
stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And so I started working on my own stuff that I won't talk about in depth, but it was basically around like number theory and relating that to spirituality and Eastern philosophy,
Mm.
with applications in physics and algorithms and stuff like that. So that to me was like probably the most insightful thing I've ever done in my life, but also like maybe the most poetic and beautiful. And I don't
Uh-huh.
think it's anything I ever discovered. I actually don't think people discover stuff. I think they're inspired to uncover things that were already there.
Uh,
And
uh,
so when we look at like how back in the
rediscovering stuff.
day, yeah, we're rediscovering.
Yeah.
Invention is a very egotistical term, right? And intellectual property is just like reeks of like arrogance. Anywho, like people were using the yin yang, right? The Taijitu, or I don't know how to pronounce it, that symbol to predict the movement of celestial bodies back in the day, right? And you
Uh-huh.
wonder, you're like, wait, why do we need 4-year series and all this bullshit when and it's not bullshit, but like it's a tool, right? But my point
Uh-huh.
is there's such elegance in ancient and sacred geometry, and people were doing some crazy stuff back in the day. And I think like society has really closed the book on that chapter. Um,
Mm.
and I also think like not to be weird, but like I'm pretty sure like the JP Morgans and the US governments and the CIAs or whatever it is, like they kind of know that there's some sauce there. And so they've like, they kind of are shutting down this whole like pyramid stuff, this Tesla stuff, like it's just like wild, and there's a lot of stuff that if people actually dig deep, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm like just a realist, like look, connect the dots, do your own homework, figure out what you want to figure out, but like don't listen to what you're being told, and you
Uh-huh.
will uncover some pretty crazy stuff.
Uh, I like this. Yeah, very good. And what was this from this main insight? What will be the biggest lessons learned that you could share with us in that sense, Neil?
Yeah. Hmm. Um, Look, I think the most tangible results for a lot of people would be stuff around numbers and prime numbers and stuff like that. But I I think like metaphysically or spiritually, I think the biggest thing is kind of really embracing that we're all one, right? And that there's like in Tai Chi, um, or in Taoism, there's this concept of like Wu Wei, which is like unlimited energy. And people think that this world is zero sum. They think that, oh, 9 to 5, got to put my clothes up and hang it up and call it a day. And And like I would encourage people to shift their mentality to like, hey, we're all one, like help other people. The law of attraction and like resonance and like good vibes attracts good people. And giving back actually without the expectation of receiving is an incredibly purifying thing that ends up helping you at the end of the day, whether or not you believe in karma. Um,
Mm,
and I think that if
yes.
people live their life in a state of flow, removing their barriers, right? Whether it's
Mm,
like, oh, I have to do something I don't like, or I have this mental hang up about this thing, you really need to embrace like the flow state. And that's kind of related to the Wu Wei, which is like just whatever you're doing, man. Like you don't have to be a Mozart or like a AI programmer, like conquering the world. You could literally be picking up a piece of trash. And it's all
uh-huh,
about frame and mindset, and
uh-huh,
some of the people doing the most simple stuff, like I'm sure you've traveled a lot and you've seen maybe street vendors and cooks and people living very simple and humble lives, just being truly blissful and appreciative of everything that they do. And then
uh-huh,
that's not because they're saving the world or making millions of
uh-huh.
dollars. It's just because of perspective and frame. And
Mhm,
so I would remind people to realize that we're all one. Like there's this niche quote, which is like, he's like, everything matters, but nothing's important.
mhm, mhm,
I was like, damn, dude, like, just like people just need to chill out, figure out what gives them energy, and like live their life like a poetic, beautiful dance. And that will,
mhm,
as you move, you're not going to hit drag, you're not going to be hitting bumps. Like every speed bump in life is actually like a turbo boost.
mhm.
Like it's all frame. You're like, if you're in a
Uh,
car and you see a speed bump, some people go, oh shit, speed bump, I gotta slow down. And some people go, oh, I gotta speed up because this is actually like I'm gonna get some air. Like this is awesome. And so
yeah.
it's all perspective.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
yeah,
I agree with that, I always say in my coaching courses and programs that it's all about the ego and the expectations. That's what limit us the most.
totally.
I'm very curious because, these many things that you are talking about is what I teach and I procure to teach and share with my clients. And I was wondering, where did you learn these kind of things or these kind of insights, because that's kind of interesting that it's about psychology as well, and about I guess from the Buddhism, right, to detach yourself from things. Yeah. So
Hmm.
anyway, what was your main
Yeah.
source of getting this
Mhm.
knowledge?
A lot of people look to books for knowledge, and when
Uh-huh.
I was younger, I probably fell into that bucket myself. I think I think I just simply just would listen, like whoever a creator was or whatever it is, like we've got one mouth, two eyes, and two ears for a reason, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like it's all
Mm-hmm.
about balance in life. And I think when you quiet yourself and you truly listen, right? And you listen from the mindset of like, oh, I don't actually know anything. I just want to listen. Things
Mm-hmm.
kind of fall into place, right? And so, have people thought these thoughts before? Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching, Hindu and Buddhist philosophy, um, Nietzsche, Carl Jung, like anything you listen to, there's a lot of this there. Even like rap music, man, like Metro Boomin and like
Mm-hmm.
Gunna and like all this stuff. Like I'm looking at this stuff and people are like, oh, this is just like really stupid music with really like ludicrous, like absurd lyrics and symbols. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, dude, like there's like all this geometry in their album art. They're talking about some crazy stuff like I just, literally anywhere you look, right? You can find a lot of truth. And even in bullshit, right? Like you could
Mm-hmm.
be listening to someone just spout off something that's completely wrong. And then there's truth in that, which is it's the truth that they don't know what they're talking about. It's the truth that you believe in the inverse. It's the truth that you need to hold up what you believe in versus their bullshit. And that all
Mm-hmm.
like so it's just like you just listen to everything, right? And I also had this insight, and sorry to derail, but it was like most people in life appreciate beauty by looking at a flower and going, "Oh wow, the flower is beautiful. It smells nice, and it really looks nice." And
Uh-huh.
I had the insight. I don't want to say the insight, well, my own perspective, which is like every part of the flower is beautiful, from its roots to its thorns. Like people
Uh-huh.
only want to smell the flower and see the petals. And
Uh-huh.
I like kind of want to experience the flower for everything it is, right? So like not
Mm-hmm.
only does the beauty of the flower and its fractal shape and its all that stuff is incredible, but like the thorn, like I want to prick myself with the thorn and listen to that song too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's truth in that too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm
Totally.
talking like metaphorically, I'm talking like symbolically, but You just need to experience everything that life has to offer. And then there's this other Buddha quote, which was like, I'm probably gonna butcher it, but it's like he's like, you attain nirvana when you take everything that life has to offer with gratitude, like the good and the bad. Like you're like, oh wow, like shit,
Uh-huh.
like I had this thorn like dig into my skin, and it was great
Mm,
because I felt alive and I felt the thorn. And you're not like, oh, well, I ripped my pants and I'm bleeding now. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different
mm,
perspective. Because like, dude, like,
yeah.
okay, yeah, that's right. You're not forgetting about that, but like, what is the point of focusing on that? You know,
Mm.
it happened. You have to be in the present. So yeah,
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Uh,
yeah,
this is something I really believe as well. I'm very, I follow and practice some of the Buddha's teachings as well. And I was wondering, what is your main concern about what you just shared today, as of now, with the world at this stage? Because I don't know if you think like me in this way, but there is a lot of more artificial artificiality and pretending than before,
mhm,
in my
yeah,
opinion, in
yeah,
comparison with other generations, especially with technology, right? That is kind of leading the human race more than ever, and spirituality is putting aside. And I think, in my opinion, we need kind of to redefine just not the business mindset, but the spirituality and all these kind of things, and to humanize more organization and
hmm
people. So I was
hmm
wondering, what is your main concern regarding the future, and what is your opinion about what to do?
yeah. I mean, right off the bat, I would say World War III and the economy, but deeper than that, I would say like all this Descartes stuff and this Western philosophy, and I have nothing against the West, but it's just like, and it's not just the West, it's just this movement that's affecting the whole world, which is the emphasis on the I. There's no such
Mm.
thing as I, right? There's just like us, like the universe, right?
Individualism,
And
yeah. Hmm.
it's yeah, it's very toxic because it's like you always think about I, and like when I hear about like DEI, like diversity, equity and inclusion, I hear about how different people are and how like people think about it through the lens of like the division, right? And
Mm,
equality and equity through exclusion, and like all of this stuff is like so backwards because like people need to realize that we're like all one and the same, whether you're
mm,
a speck of sand, a black hole, like a human, uh, Chat GPT, whatever that is, right? And it's just like we're all the same, and we're all maybe unique, right? Unique, like how no two snowflakes are the same, right? But they're all still made of the same stuff, right?
mm,
So I
mhm.
think people are always emphasizing like, oh, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm gay, I'm this, right? It's like, yeah, okay, sure, but we're all the same. Like that's what we need
Uh,
to lead with, and so I think people are forgetting that we're all one. And I
uh,
think also I think people are over indexed on the physical. And like you can people because of that, because they're focused on the eye and they're focused on what they can see and hear and whatever that is,
mhm,
they're really limiting their experience to the physical world, and they're
mm,
denying the truth that we're fundamentally like spiritual beings living a human experience as
mm,
opposed to human beings living a spiritual experience, right?
yeah,
So it's all about the
mm,
metaphysical world and not the physical world, and like
yeah,
people are now trying to get into escapism through the metaverse. Metaverse is not a metaphysical world. Metaverse is a physical world that's just a concoction of electronics, right, and signals.
mm,
So I think I'm very much a naturalist, right? Like I'm on my computer at least 5 hours a day, right? But at the same time, I take the time to like be present and unwind and get some fresh air, right?
mm,
Um,
mhm,
and so I think yeah, to circle back home, the two biggest things are that concern me are the focus on the I and not us, right? This like divisiveness that comes with groups, countries, factions, religions. And then
mm,
the other thing is this materialism that comes from focusing on the physical. So it's like,
mm,
what do
mm,
I have? Like you look at like the philosophers and how they defined wealth and nothing to do with material possessions, nothing.
mm,
So people will just have it completely backwards. Um, and I actually like I have a pretty bleak outlook or perspective on where the world is headed, but that's okay. Like no matter if 99% of the people are, have their heads up their behinds, like thinking about whatever, like you can always live your own truth. It doesn't matter, right? You
mm,
just you live your
yeah.
truth and you share that goodness and that vibe with other people. You do what you can, but like the world is not headed in a good place. And I actually don't find that sad. I find that to be incredibly exciting, right? Because it's just like, what a time to be alive where we have weather balloons, AI, coronaviruses, like nukes, like, black holes, and just like, dude, it's just like, whoa, like this is cool, so I'm
Yeah,
here for it.
the opportunities are limitless, right? In this
Totally.
moment, yeah, for sure. Very good. I was wondering, with all that you just shared, what is your why, Neil, at this moment?
Oh, yeah. Good question. So I used to think like I had a friend who used to challenge me on stuff, and I was like, oh, my why is to like do good, be good, and feel good. It's like, well, what does that even mean? I was like, oh shit, you're right. Like that's it's really like, oh man, when you really unwrap it, like what's the sauce there? And
Mm,
there was this like, man, I forgot the quote, but it was like Nietzsche was said this thing that was like, um, and those who were seen dancing, like people thought people who are dancing were crazy because they couldn't hear the music, right? And then so in life, there's always this like goes back to this musica universalis thing. There's like
mm,
this pervasive, unifying music beat that's always there, right? Whether or not people actually sense it. And it's the same beat that like plants photosynthesize to. It's the same beat that like planets orbit, the solar system and the sun through. It's the same beat that our heart beats to. It's the same patterns that you see in music theory. And it's just
mhm,
like my why, right, is not to save the world, right, is not to be the best I can be, is not to attain nirvana or whatever. It's just like I'm just trying to dance, man. I'm just trying to like, poetically pirouette through life and just have fun and really get in touch with that beat of life,
uh-huh,
and live my truth. And like every day that's going to change, right? So right now
uh-huh,
it's like medical devices and lasers and robotics and AI.
uh-huh,
Tomorrow I might just be like, I don't really care about that, and I got to be okay with letting that go.
mm,
I'm not my profession. I'm not my degrees. I'm not my family. Like I'm just like I'm nothing really. I'm just one with the sauce. And I'm just trying to
uh-huh,
get lost in the sauce. That's my why. Literally, my
uh-huh,
why is getting lost in the sauce and dancing and having fun. And I don't mean just physically. I just mean like being a kid and waking up every day like it's freaking Christmas and just really loving life and living life. Um, and really being in tune with all that like the world and the universe has to offer, and not only like doing that dance myself, but
mhm,
also like if you believe in like concept of like resonance and harmony and vibrations, like putting other people onto that stuff, like
uh-huh,
sparking that light inside of them, right,
mhm,
so that they can dance to the same beat and we can all just like put on together and have a good time. You know what I'm saying? Like elevating
yeah,
myself and other people. And I don't do it with the expectation that they're going to help me. I'm just like, dude, life is a party, and I'm trying to make a block party in my hood. Like I'm just trying to like
mm,
rally like my buddies, be friends with everybody, and see the good and even the bad things, right? Like I actually think that a lot of terrible things are like incredibly poetic and incredibly beautiful, right? Sure, they're bad, but like there's a beauty in everything, right? So I'm
mm,
not going to go really far and extreme and say like things that I actually believe. Um, but let's just say when you have an appreciation like for the good and the bad, and you don't even really believe in good, you just believe in like numbers and symmetry and harmony and like good and morality, like in a lot of like modern culture and stuff is derived from like religion. It's like, dude, it's not about that. Like you're telling me when I was in high school, like my English teacher, we had a class and they're like, oh, you don't believe in religion, like so you're telling me if you don't believe in the Bible, like why would you just not like go shoot someone the next day? I was like,
mm,
you're telling me the only reason why you're not shooting someone is because of the Bible. I was like, how
uh-huh,
like effed is that? So I was just
uh,
like, anyways, I'm digressing here, but I'm
yeah,
just
no,
trying to
it's
dance and have
good,
fun, man,
it's good,
and
it's
spread
good. I get
positivity.
okay. I like it. I like getting lost in the sauce, live your truth, dance, be in tune with the universe. I like
Yeah,
these concepts. I follow some of them as well, or very like that. And I'm very aware that sometimes it's better or it's easier to say than do it, right? Because there are
mm,
like pendulums it's just a book I read it, that they try to drag you to the artificial and the other stuff that people are believing, right? And
yeah.
sometimes that is challenging. So I was wondering, what has been so far the most difficult thing that you had to do, Neil, in order to live your truth, or to be in tune with the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm at a point where it just flows naturally. But
Mm-hmm.
on the way to that journey, I think letting go, like there's this whole paradox where people who are insecure feel the
Mm,
need to secure things. And for
mm,
example, like the tighter you squeeze something, the harder it is to contain it. It just like slips through
mm,
your hands, right? You just kind of like
mm,
need to sometimes, not even sometimes, I'm finding the looser you are, the more open you are with things, the stronger your grip actually is. It's like,
mm,
whoa, like what? And so for me, I was just like, it's letting go, like I just don't want any money. I don't want any things. I don't want any credit. I don't need any admiration or anything. I just want to be like a man of the people, a man of the streets, like no, above no one, below no one, and just like one. And so I
mm,
was just like, I'm not about money. I was like, so I started like just giving money away, man. I was just like,
mm,
I'm not about it. Like I started. I don't even want to say this, but I'll say it. Like I would wake up sometimes and just burn money, like in my little
uh,
Tibetan bowl, like $1 bill. And it wasn't like,
uh,
and I know it's technically illegal, but I would do it because I was like, it's the symbolism of it, to me, right? That like,
uh, uh,
it's like my mantra, which was like, dude, like who gives a shit about money? Like, dude, I'm
uh,
gonna have food regardless, right? Why am I putting myself in this box, right? Where I
uh,
have to make millions of dollars and do this or that. Like, that is so toxic, right? I do not want to think. Some people go, "Oh, you're in your 30s, you're in the best time of your life to make money," and I'm like, how stupid is that? I was like,
mm,
I'm in my 30s. That means I have a lot of energy to do good stuff and have fun. And if
mm,
I can create value, and I'm sure I can capture value, right?
mm,
That's a
mm,
better way to think about it. So I think unlearning and freeing myself from all the BS that's out there,
mm,
and realizing that 99% of what you hear is actually BS and people don't know what the heck they're talking about. And people
mm.
intentionally will pull you in on some stupid stuff, um, just so that you can go to their level. And institutions will do the same just so they can trap you in some stupid, vicious cycle of capitalism or whatever you want to call it.
Okay,
Yeah.
love it. Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much. We are in the time of the end of the interview, okay? And I just wanted to know if you want to share anything else that we haven't covered so far, or is there anything that you would like to share, like last words?
Let me think about it for a sec. Oh man, yeah. So, okay, two things. All right, one.
Okay.
Here's something. It's like my little mood board thing, right? So, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. It's like, damn, that is
Uh,
so powerful. I
I
believe in
love that.
manifestation. Um, if you want something to happen, you've got to put in the work. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe that it already happened. Yeah, and you're just
Mm-hmm,
connecting the dots.
mm-hmm,
And so that's one. And the other one is, I used to think that people who said this were so stupid. There's like these girls with like these little stickers that would say "live, laugh, love," and people say like, "What's the secret of life? What's the purpose?" I'm like, now I'm like, holy shit, these girls had it figured out all along, and I was hating on them. Live, laugh, love. Like
mm.
live freely, love deeply, um, and laugh like, dude, just like laugh like crazy, man. Like, who gives a shit if people judge you? You know? So just like live
Totally.
every moment as if it's your last, and be completely present, and lead with love. And realize that life is inherently absurd. Like, there's no reason why you can't be laughing at anything, even if it's the most tragic thing. Respectfully, of course. Like, it's all really funny and beautiful. So
Uh-huh.
don't people shouldn't lose sight of that, and people shouldn't lose sight of what made them tick as a kid. I just like, it's so interesting to see these kids turn into these cynical adults that are just like defeated with their 9 to 5 jobs, and they're
Mm,
like working to live the weekend. I was like, dude, like, guys, just do better, man. It's like you're putting yourself in this box. It's not corporate America, it's you. So
uh,
that's my parting words. Live, laugh, love, man, and
Hey,
let
love,
loose.
love. I
Don't
love
get
it.
lost in the
Thank you so
sauce.
much.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right.
Thanks for having
Thank
me,
you so
Yoshi.
much. Thank
Talk
you.
to you guys later.
Thank you. It was beautiful
Bye.
interview. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.